So, we're talking about Starlink finally getting the green light in India, right? I mean, they've just been approved by InSpace to operate their Starlink Gen 1 constellation for satellite broadband.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, and that approval is valid until 2030, which is quite a significant window for operation. It's interesting how they're set to use both non-Indian GSO and NGSO satellites. Pretty cutting-edge tech.
Exactly. And one of the key parts is the allocation of specific frequency bands. For instance, for gateway beams, they've got uplink frequencies at 27.5 29.1 GHz and 29.5 30 GHz, and downlink frequencies in the 17.8 18.6 GHz and 18.8 19.3 GHz.
Right. And don't forget the user beams, which operate on the 14.0 14.5 GHz uplink and 10.7 12.7 GHz downlink. Pretty precise requirements, which means the government's really laying out the rules in detail.
Yeah, there's a lot of regulatory detail here. But here's what's really fascinating. Even with this nod, Starlink has to still acquire spectrum from the government, set up their ground infrastructure, and pass all those security trials and tests according to national security standards.
Exactly. And that's kind of a rigorous checklist they have to meet. They also have plans to establish at least 3 gateway stations nationwide, which seems like a modest start compared to, say, Amazon's Project Kuiper, who are eyeing even more extensive infrastructure.
Right. And speaking of Kuiper, it's interesting to note that Starlink is racing against not just Kuiper, but also players like Eutelsat OneWeb and even Reliance, which are already making moves in the SATCOM
Yeah,
market.
that's a tough competition. Exactly. And while Starlink has already secured commercial agreements with Viasat providers, which means they're looking at enterprise and government segments from the get-go, the consumer rollout is still in the planning stage. Retail pricing is yet to be finalized, right?
Yeah, it's still in the works, and they might offer direct-to-consumer satellite connections soon via their website. But what's cool is that they've cleared the last regulatory hurdle with InSpace, which makes them the third player after OneWeb and Jio to get such approvals.
That's a game changer, for sure. Though I do wonder if the groundwork required, like establishing that ground infrastructure and meeting all national security protocols, might slow down the rollout a bit. Don't you think?
I see your point, but I'd argue that it's better to ensure robust compliance than rush and face setbacks later. It's like building a house. You need a solid foundation before you add the fancy furniture, right?
Yep, true. Definitely. Plus the spectrum allocation process is still, unfolding with the telecom regulatory authority setting guidelines and pricing, so there's still a bit of uncertainty here.
Absolutely. And on the security front, the Department of Telecommunications is also set to grant trial spectrum, which means Starlink will need to complete security compliance demonstrations. That's a rigorous process, ensuring not only service quality, but national safety as well.
Exactly. All in all, it's like watching a high-stakes race where, while Starlink is in the lead, others like Kuiper and OneWeb are ready to pounce with more infrastructure and extensive plans. It definitely makes for an exciting market to watch.
Right? It's a fascinating period in global satellite broadband. Starlink's final nod in India, with all these specific frequency bands and regulatory challenges, sets a promising stage, but also reminds us that every technological leap must cross a few hurdles first.
Totally agree. Yeah, this development could redefine connectivity in India for enterprise, government, and eventually consumers. It's exciting, really exciting.
Indeed. Let's keep an eye on how this unfolds in the coming years. It's the dawn of a new era in satellite internet for India.